We are officially terminating the so-called endangerment finding, a disastrous Obama-era policy. You're going to get a better car. You're going to get a car that starts easier, a car that works better for a lot less money.
The forced transition to electric vehicles is eliminated. We are ending the federal government's push to get manufacturers to install that Obama switch, the almost universally despised start-stop feature.
It was a big change, environmental policy, and it is the end of an Obama-era effort. Former President Obama going on X, saying today the Trump administration repealed the endangerment finding, the ruling that served as the basis for limits on tailpipe emissions and power plant rules. Without it, we'll be less safe, less healthy, and less able to fight climate change. Also, the fossil fuel industry can make even more money. The EPA administrator responded.
If Congress didn't authorize it, EPA shouldn't be doing it. Congress never voted for these climate mandates inside of Section 202 of the Clean Air Act. If Congress wants EPA to regulate the heck out of greenhouse gases emitted from motor vehicles, then Congress can clearly make that the law, which they haven't done for good reason.
With that, let's bring in our panel. Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen, Amy Walter, publisher and editor-in-chief of the Cook Political Report, and Fox News senior political analyst Juan Williams. Mark, this is a big deal in the climate environment and the political fallout from it. How do you see it?
Yeah, I was watching it today, and the old presidential speechwriter in me was saying the line is, we're pulling the plug on electric vehicles. But nobody said that, unfortunately, but that's what they're doing. And it's a great decision, not just an economic decision, but a national security decision. Why would we as a country trade a cheap, reliable source of energy that we have, fossil fuels, for a source of energy on which we're dependent on communist China, which provides 90% of the world's rare earths that were needed for electric vehicles? And on top of that, we're in an AI arms race with China right now. And for that, we're going to need data centers. They're going to require massive amounts of electricity. Our grid can't handle that as it is, much less if you added every vehicle in America onto the grid as well. So this whole push for electric vehicles, first of all, nobody wants them. They're sitting in lots, unsold. They've been subsidized. The only reason people are buying them is because they're subsidized, and now the subsidies are gone. So I think the electric vehicle market is about to collapse, and good for that.
The Obama folks, Juan, weighing in, obviously, today. What's your take?
Well, it's a big win for business. I don't think there's any question there. They're not going to have to measure emissions. They're not going to have to report on the rate of emissions. So in the short run, it's the cars that will be impacted, and to some extent, some of the big factories. We're going to get to the power plants later. It's not impacted immediately. But I think that Mother Nature is going to have something to say about this, in much the way that Mother Nature did about vaccines and measles that we've seen increase. You stop and you think about people with asthma, COPD, cancer rates. A lot of that was caused by people saying that there is a direct impact from pollution, not just a matter of climate change. But for the short run, I think the president has been very clear. The Defense Department should use coal. He thinks that this will drive down cost of energy, which again is part of the issue of affordability. So he sees it as a double win.
Yeah. Amy, when you talk politics and you look at polls on this issue and we head towards the midterms, how do you see it? Because people are voting already on electric cars. If you talk to dealers around the country, that they're looking at lots filled with electric cars. And how do they see it ahead on this environment issue ahead of the midterms?
Yeah, I think Juan summed it up pretty well, that really when we're talking about electricity in terms of, or anything involving the electric grid, in terms of politics, it's the issue of affordability. And we had a governor's race in New Jersey where the issue of the cost of electricity was the top concern for voters. It's happening all over the country. And so for politicians running in 2026, being able to make a direct link between the work they're doing and lowering costs for people who are seeing their electric rates go up is going to be critical. Now, look, a lot of this electricity is being sucked up by these AI data centers. And so we're probably going to hear, at least when it comes to campaign time, a lot more about AI data centers than we will about electric cars.
Yeah, but Mark, just to put a bow on this, some of the cost of some of this was about excessive regulations and all the things that you had to jump through hoop-wise to do some of this business, number one. Number two, AI, a lot of people think it's going to help us innovate our way out of some of the problems dealing with the environment.
100%. It's first of all, the regulations were a regulatory wet blanket on the economy that's now being taken off, which is good for Trump and it's good for Americans. And you're right, AI is going to help us solve a lot of these issues going forward. And we had to recognize climate change isn't an existential crisis. It is a problem that can be managed, and the answer is adaptation. We need to, it's cheaper to air conditioning is cheaper than heat. You can build dikes, and AI will help us find lots of ways to adapt to a warming climate, so we can live with it, because we can't destroy the free market economy in order to try and stop the planet from warming.
We'll see how this plays, big picture. Let's listen to Tom Holman announcing this drawdown in Minneapolis.
I want to thank Governor Walz for his messages focusing on peace and his support for the Minnesota State Troopers. I also want to thank Mayor Frey for taking a public stance against agitators setting up barricades. I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue through the next week.
I mean, it's the end of these anti-ICE protests. Amy, just the images alone of these, back and forth, that's a political win eventually for the Trump administration, but it is a long time coming.
Well, what I thought was interesting about Holman's press conference today is I thought he did a pretty good job of balancing this. He had sort of two jobs here. One was to lower the temperature in Minnesota, and he did so by saying, look, I've been working with local officials here. We've been doing a lot of great work, giving some praise to them. And at the same time saying this does not mean at all that we're rolling back or doing anything less on President Trump's top priority, which he said, this does not mean, how did he say this? That we will be backing down on mass deportation. So he said, we're still going to be doing that, even as we're pulling back from Minnesota. So he was able to sort of thread both of those things into his press conference today.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next. I want to turn quickly to Cuba. This is President Trump on Cuba on NBC.
They're in big trouble. We are
Do you think that government is still there, though? Do you think that government lasts?
I don't want to say that, but we are talking to Cuba.
You're talking to Cuba.
You know what? Look, we have tens of thousands of people that were forced out there here. They voted for me, 94%. Cuban population, previous Cuban population. Now they're Cuban Americans. Maybe they go back. Maybe they want to go back. They're going to have that choice. But for years, they've been talking about this happening. Now it's happening.
It's happening, according to the president, Juan. They're putting the squeeze on Cuba, and they're feeling it.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, I was listening just to what the president was saying there, and the thought occurred to me that the number one Cuban family immigrant who is looking for regime change there is Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And I think he's been pushing that, and I think even after Maduro was ousted in Venezuela, he made the point that this is going to have impact on Cuba. And right now we see Cuba having trouble with oil supplies. Mexico sent some humanitarian aid there. That could be a complication for U.S. policy. But there's no question that the Cuban regime, as we talk tonight, is in serious trouble.
In 10 seconds, Mark. Russia and China seem like they're supporting.
Yeah, I think that before the Trump presidency is over, Donald Trump will visit a free Caracas, a free Tehran, and a free Havana.
We're going to go back to the tape. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.